Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I'd like to talk about the topic of magic. When I say magic, I don't mean the magic you see magicians perform. I mean supernatural powers or abilities. Lately the topic has been on my mind and felt that I should make a video on the topic. I live in a suburban area in the United States and I drive around my town and I sometimes notice these psychic shops. Part of me gets intrigued by them, but I can never summon up the courage to go into one of them. The reason being is because I have these ideas on my mind. I think either the psychic who works in the shop is a fraud or the psychic tampers with powers we do not understand and is probably not safe. Regardless if the psychic is fake or not, it's bad either way. As Christians, we know that God has powers that are above man's comprehension. God has even blessed angels with supernatural abilities that are superior to man's abilities, but they are not as strong as God's. Some angels unfortunately fell from grace and these angels became fallen angels. Satan, also known as Lucifer, convinced 1/3 of God's angels to follow his lead and they are now known as demons. Demons are believed to walk on the earth and they sometimes try to deceive people by convincing them to turn their attention from God. They are deceptive, they will try to convince any individual to focus on anything else other than God. Some may convince you to make money and other worldly things as your idol. Some will try to convince you to worship a false god and try to trick you that this false god has magical abilities. Some will try to trick you into thinking another religion is a true religion, such as paganism. Through their abilities, they try to persuade any person they can find to sin and convince them to walk away from God. Supernatural powers can sometimes be associated with witchcraft, necromancy, Wicca, and sorcery. Today I'd like to read a story in the Bible that is known as the Witch of Endor, which is also known as the Medium of Endor. It is found in 1 Samuel chapter 28, verses 3 to 25. In this story we find out that the prophet Samuel dies and is buried in a town called Ramah, which is northwest of Jerusalem. Samuel previously anointed Saul as king because that was what Israel demanded. However, King Saul lost favor with God due to his disobedience. In this story, he seeks wisdom from God in choosing a course of action against the assembled forces of the Philistines. He receives no answer from God. He received no dream, and no prophet came forward to advise him. God was not communing with him before the Battle of Gilboa. Saul in this story is seeking someone who can advise him, and his advisors suggest him to seek out a witch who lives in Endor. And I quote, "Meanwhile Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him. He was buried in Ramah, his hometown. And Saul had banned all mediums and psychics from the land of Israel. The Philistines set up camp at Shunem, and Saul and the armies of Israel camped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the vast Philistine army, he became frantic with fear. He asked the Lord what he should do, but the Lord refused to answer him, either by dreams or by sacred lots, or by the prophets. Saul then said to his advisors, 'Find a woman who is a medium, so I can go and ask her what to do.' His advisors replied, 'There is a medium at Endor.' So Saul disguised himself by wearing ordinary clothing instead of his royal robes. Then he went to the woman's home at night, accompanied by 2 of his men. 'I have to talk to a man who has died,' he said. 'Will you call up his spirit for me?' 'Are you trying to get me killed?' the woman demanded. 'You know that Saul has expelled all mediums and psychics from the land. Why are you setting a trap for me?' But Saul took an oath in the name of the Lord and promised, 'As surely as the Lord lives, nothing bad will happen to you for doing this.' Finally the woman said, 'Well, whose spirit do you want me to call up?' 'Call up Samuel,' Saul said. When the woman saw Samuel, she screamed, 'You've deceived me! You are Saul! Don't be afraid,' the king told her. 'What do you see?' 'I see a god coming up out of the earth,' she said. 'What does he look like?' Saul asked. 'He is an old man wrapped in a robe,' she replied. Saul realized that it was Samuel, and he fell to the ground before him. 'Why have you disturbed me by calling me back?' Samuel asked. 'Because I am in deep trouble. The Philistines are at war with us, and God has left me and won't reply by prophets or dreams. so I have called for you to tell me what to do." But Samuel replied, "Why ask me if the Lord has left you and has become your enemy? The Lord has done just as he said he would. He has taken the kingdom from you and given it to your rival, King David. The Lord has done this because you did not obey his instructions concerning the Amalekites. What's more, the Lord will hand you and the army of Israel over to the Philistines tomorrow, and you and your sons will be there with me. The Lord will bring the entire army of Israel down in defeat." Saul fell full length on the ground, paralyzed with fright because of Samuel's words. He was also faint with hunger. He had not eaten all day and all night. When the woman saw how distraught he was, she said, "Sir, I obeyed your command at the risk of my life. Now do what I say and let me give you something to eat so you can regain your strength for the trip back." But Saul refused. The men who were with him also urged him to eat, so he finally yielded and got up from the ground and sat on the couch. The woman had been fattening a calf, so she hurried out and killed it. She kneaded dough and baked unleavened bread. She brought the meal to Saul and his men, and they ate it. Then they went out into the night. So to sum up the main points of the story, before seeking this witch out, Saul previously killed anyone who practiced witchcraft or necromancy, for they were a capital offense punishable by death. Out of desperation, Saul disguises himself so that he would not be recognized by the witch, and he seeks out in a cave of Endor, which is in a Canaanite village. The witch somehow conjures up Samuel, and Samuel delivers Saul some bad news. He learns that David will replace him as king, and that his 3 sons will lose the battle the next day and will die. Later on, we find out that Saul was indeed killed. Some of the Philistines' archers hit him with arrows, and Saul asks his armor-bearer to kill him using his sword, but he refuses. After the refusal, Saul commits suicide using his own sword. Saul, his 3 sons, and his armor-bearer died that very day on Mount Gilboa. To this day, many people speculate who the medium was, and they wonder if it was indeed Samuel she conjured. It could have been a demon. In fact, some people speculate if the witch was really a woman. Some think she was a demon. Some people wonder if she used some kind of trickery using her voice, and wonder if she was some sort of ventriloquist. That is, of course, if she was indeed a human. Regardless of what really happens, the idea of summoning spirits or demons does not sound like a good idea. The Bible warns us to not tamper with powers that does not come from God. I know in Wicca there are people who say they practice either white or black magic, but regardless, unless permitted to you by God, I would not mess with Ouija boards, tarot cards, talismans, amulets, all forms of supernatural power. I watch television sometimes, and every once in a while there are documentaries of people who have messed around with these sort of things, and they think they open doorways of the spirit world, and sometimes these spirits never leave them alone unless they ask for God's help and forgiveness. I'm going to read you some Bible quotes that have to do with magic and sorcery. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 31 says, "Do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God." 1 John chapter 4, verse 1 says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test them to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world." I leave you all with this. Do not mess with anything that relates to supernatural powers. I believe tampering with magic is not a good idea. I think sometimes certain people are born with extra abilities, but I think we should question how he or she has this ability. If the power comes outside of God, I don't think anyone should use it. I think it's unsafe. I only say this because I do not wish to see people suffer from it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Have a good day, and God bless.